And good morning. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner and publisher of What's Up Newp. It is 7:31 a.m. on Tuesday, October 13th, just 3 weeks until the general election. Can you believe it? And we are packing in a bunch of interviews throughout this week. This week we are focusing on Newport School Committee as well as Middletown Town Council. We have already done Newport City Council as well as all of the representative and Senate races. I think we're at about 40 interviews thus far, and we just keep moving ahead. And we're kicking off this morning nice and early, and with Middletown Town Council candidate Jim Miller. And good morning, Jim.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good. And how are you?
Never better.
Thanks for joining me so early. It's I think this is the earliest interview we've done thus far.
Well, I'm an early riser.
Me as well. So it's nice to get started, and we have a whole bunch of them lined up today. But let's start with Jim Miller. Why don't, for those Middletown voters, residents out there who do not know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've lived in Middletown for over 30 years. My wife and I live on Forest Avenue. We moved here in 1990. This is my second run at Middletown Town Council. In 1992, as a very young man, I was asked to run. I was the 8th vote getter out of a field of about 13 or 14. And I don't regret that. We've raised 3 children in Middletown, been involved in the Middletown school systems. I've been involved in youth sports, scoutmaster of a Boy Scout troop in Middletown. Currently, I'm in my second term on the Middletown Zoning Board. I'm currently the chairman of the board, and just a longtime resident, private business owner. I've owned several businesses in town, and that's me.
Excellent. Why does Jim Miller want to be on Middletown Town Council?
Good question. I didn't really want to be on the Middletown Town Council, but after what's transpired over the last year with just the way the council was conducting business, I just felt it was time for some change. And I have the experience not running a town, but, on different boards and, with leadership positions. And I just felt it was time that we tried to pull back from all the negative relationships that the council seems to have.
What opportunities, I guess is the best way to phrase it, or issues, depends on which way you want to go this morning, do you see out there with Middletown Town Council? How do you think you can improve it?
I think one is by opening up dialogue. I mean, one thing that's apparent in society is we no longer have really a functioning free press like we used to have. I mean, what you do is awesome, but sitting at the zoning board, there's nobody there covering it anymore. And there's nobody, the extensive coverage that we used to get from having a free press was pretty good. And, I think a casualty of that is that towns, especially Middletown, we don't communicate well. A lot of the decisions that have been made probably would have been made the same way, but the response from the citizens would have been a lot better if the council had communicated why they were making the decisions they were making. And when that doesn't happen, it leaves a lot of people standing around wondering what is their vote count for.
Of course, one of the biggest issues, actually, let me ask this question first. There are 18 candidates running. I had to make sure I had the number right. 18 candidates running for Middletown Town Council. Why do you think so many candidates are running in 2020?
I think a lot has to do with the way the council's conducted business. I think there's a couple of issues that are at the top of everyone's mind. One being school, looking at the schools and seeing if there's anything we can do for unification. I think it's been the way that the council has interacted with itself and with the citizens. I think people are tired of that. I think it's great. I mean, 18 people running for a town job that, is a volunteer position. I think it's wonderful. It shows that people want to get engaged, which is great. Whether or not I win or not, I mean, the election process has been great because 18 people got involved.
I know it's the age-old question, but I think it helps voters understand where you are. What would be your three priorities or top priorities? We don't have to go with a number, but what would be your top priorities if elected?
I think my top priority would be to be engaged with the community, because one, to sit here and say I'm going to, everyone wrote, what they were planning to do. Everyone wants lower taxes, better education, business development. I'm not sure how they all fit together, and I don't want to make false expectations. I think, my hallmark is I work hard, at whatever I do. I've been on the zoning board. It took me probably 3 years to understand what my position was and to understand how it interacts with the zoning code and what our job is. And I think I'm going to approach the council the same way. I think we have to come up with a more rational way to do our taxes. I mean, the current council is very proud of the fact that we've had 4 years of no tax increases, and I think that's great. But at what cost? We're now going through a reevaluation, which is how our taxes work in Middletown. And I'm not sure what's going to happen as a result of that, because we've got planned maintenance that has to get done on the schools. The school budget has fallen, almost 30 points as a percentage of the town budget. Is that a result of low enrollment, or is it just a result of defunding the schools? I don't know. And, to answer that, I've got to dig into it. So my number one priority is going to be to listen and work on behalf of the citizens. I don't believe that the town council can do a lot as far as business development. We can make resources available for people in Middletown to make it easier to have a business. But, the town getting involved in actually redeveloping land, I'm not sure that's the role of the town. So that's, my goal mainly is to listen, learn, and work hard, however it is.
Where do you fall on the whole school debate? Obviously, that has become, over the last year plus now, has become such a big issue where people land on either side in Newport as well as Middletown. What do you feel about schools? What should we be doing?
Well, what happened is very interesting. I was very fortunate in my career to work for a gentleman named Everett Pearson, who started a company called TPI. And the one thing Everett taught me when I was running not only a nonprofit that he was the chairman of the board for, but then a division of his company, he said, Jim, you always have to listen. You don't have to act, but you have to listen. So if somebody was coming with an idea, whether it be an employee or a vendor or anyone, he would require that I would sit down and listen. And when I look at what the council did, when 1,000 people signed their name to a petition and wanted to sit down and just put on the docket that they wanted to talk about school reunification or unification, they had a duty to listen, not disenfranchise. And when they voted it down prior to that, I don't necessarily disagree with their decision, because the way that Rhode Island Department of Education had set up those talks, it was a one-way trip. Once you got into the process, it was going to happen. And whether we liked it or not, and there were some control issues there, but the council didn't communicate that to anyone. They made a decision. It looked like a unilateral decision, and there was no communication out to the public why they were making the decision. We have to do something. We live on a very small island, with 3 small towns. I'd love, they call Newport the city by the sea, but it's a small town. You can put the entire state of Rhode Island inside the beltway of Houston, Texas. I know that because I was in the utility industry. We have to look at how we're funding things, and is it the most efficient? In Middletown, are we the most efficient at funding our education? Are we giving our students the best education they can get? And, I don't agree with people. It's, some people out there said, oh, we don't want the Newport kids. I don't think it was that as much as it was just good old parochial thinking that, this is our bubble, let's stay in it. And I think we have to start looking outside of that. My first time in Middletown was in the early 70s as a military kid. And I went to, at that time, it was called Middletown Middle School, now Gaudet. As an 8th grader, my father got transferred from Middletown to Philadelphia. What an eye-opening experience when I went from riding the yellow school bus to riding the subway to my junior high. And the educational opportunities that we had in Philadelphia because of the size of the district were immense. In Middletown, in Rhode Island, we hem ourselves in New England, I should say. It's not even just Rhode Island. So we have to look at how we fund these things, and we have to look at it from a point of view of why not. Why not look at this? What would it cost to sit down and talk about it?
Of course, if Newport voters vote to approve question number 2, well, then that changes the whole conversation on
Absolutely.
What Middletown Town Council will do. You mentioned communication as well as listening a lot. What are you hearing from Middletown voters?
I'm hearing that they're tired. They're tired of the relationship of the school board and the council. They're tired of the way the council has disenfranchised voters. They're tired of how the council has acted towards one another. It's hard to look at something. You can disagree with somebody politically, but you still have to work together. You still have to accomplish things. And if you read the letters to the editors, it's just been horrendous. The way that people have treated each other, tearing each other apart. It's just, why? What is that going to accomplish?
Yeah, it is. I received many of them, and it has certainly been disappointing, to say the very least, of just, to see the way people are carrying themselves during this election season.
People ask me if I was upset over the ballot placement, and I wanted to bring in, I studied physics in college, and, I understand numbers, and, there was a very good article in one of the papers about the choice. I'm not sure how they do it, but, the present council did themselves a disservice if they had anything to do with the ballot placement. But if I brought in a die with 6 sides on it right now and rolled it for you 30 times, the chances of the occurrence just in 1 in 6 of what's happened in just the top, let's just look at the top 5 placement over the last 3 cycles. That can't happen.
Yeah,
just numerically, it's impossible. And I'm not sure how they did the placement. I was told it was done on a random drawing, and I believe that until I have otherwise to do it. But I sat down with a deck of cards, and I drew out 18 cards. I shuffled them up, and I started picking random cards. I was not able to duplicate what happened over the last 3 cycles, myself. So again, that's what people are tired of. They're tired of, feeling like they're not part of the process. I get it too. Everyone, some other candidates are coming after me because they say I'm part of the problem. I've been on the zoning board. I'm part of the evil empire. Everyone on the zoning board are volunteers. And we look at a code, and then we have to make decisions on the code. And if we make the wrong decision, it goes to Superior Court, and then it gets overruled, and it costs the town. And there's a lot of people say, oh, we have too many hotels down near the beach. Well, here's the deal. It's in the code. It's allowed by right. And the way you stop that is you have to change the zoning code. Somebody said, oh, we have too many gas stations in Middletown. Well, the way Middletown and most of America is set up is it's not a planned community. So when somebody owns a piece of commercial property, if they're allowed to place a gas station on it or a laundromat, whatever it is, we could have 7 of them in a row. That's a business decision. And serving on the zoning board, I think I've discovered, that people don't really understand the process of how government works. And I think we need to educate people.
And there are plenty of opportunities for people to get more involved in boards, commissions. And I always encourage people to look at their local city or town hall and find out how to get involved. There are plenty of opportunities, plenty of vacancies in every city and town. Jim, are there any other issues or things you would want voters to know about you as a candidate?
Yeah, well, I told you I ran in 92. So my daughter lives in California, and she's unlucky to have my name as her name. Her name is Ella James Miller. And she's got a boyfriend who's, got a degree, and he's a very smart guy. And she came home this summer during COVID, and she told me about an argument that they had over her name. She goes, "Oh, I'm named after my dad." And her boyfriend, Melby, goes, "Oh, no, your name is James. Your father's name is Jim. Now, his name is Richard." And you'd think that Richard, Dick, he'd understand. And that brought me back, and so I'm forbidden to ever mention this. I hope to God that my daughter's boyfriend doesn't find this and watch it, because she told me never to bring this up. But I started thinking back to 92, because all my signs that you see out there, I always go by Jim Miller. So back in 92, when I lost by 17 votes, I wonder how many people don't know that Jim and James are the same name. So I guess the one thing I want people to know is, hey, if you get out and you like me, you're going to see James Miller on the ballot. You're not going to see Jim Miller. And you're going to have to go all the way down to the slot number 17 to see me, because I'm second to the last. I'm very proud to be in that spot, because, it is what it is. I don't argue about things I can't control. I don't control however that ballot got created, but what I do control is my reaction to it. So that's what I want people to know is, my name is Jim Miller, and it's James Miller. And, also, I am who I am. One candidate came up to me and said, "Well, I'm not going to sign your nomination papers. You're part of the whole town that needs to be replaced." And I said, I agree with you that the whole council needs to be replaced. But I'm the same person. If you meet me online, if you meet me at the bar, if you meet me at a soccer game, I don't really change. I try to call them as close as I can, as on the zoning board. I'm pretty fair in person, and there's not a whole lot other than what you see. I mean, there's no subterfuge.
Jim, how can people get a hold of you or find out more information if they want to learn more?
They can email me at jim.miller@embracebenefits.com. They can call me at 401-207-1209, which is my cell phone. They can. I'd be happy to talk to anyone. I haven't been, out of respect for COVID, I haven't been door knocking, because I just, I have a compromised immune system. Back in 2012 or 2013, I was diagnosed with a rare form of lymphoma, and I live with a compromised immune system. So I tend not to put myself in harm's way. But if anyone wants to talk to me, I'd be happy to talk to them on the phone, meet them on Zoom, and I meet them in person, as long as they don't mind the fact that I'll be standing at least 6 feet away with a mask on.
Absolutely. And number 17 on the ballot in Middletown. I just want to take this opportunity, because today is the deadline to get your mail ballot applications into your local canvassing authority. So drop them off before 4 o'clock. Tomorrow starts early voting at your local city and town halls, and that goes through November 2nd. And obviously the general election for people that show up is November 3rd. So you'll find Jim on Middletown Town Council's ballot at number 17 on all of those. Anything else, Jim?
I just want to thank you for bringing back the free press, Ryan, because we have to start over.
We're trying our darnest to. I see how many things go uncovered every day, still, and it bothers me. And our goal is to try to leave as many things uncovered as possible.
Thank you.
All right, Jim. We wish you the very best of luck on November 3rd. All right. That is Jim Miller, who is a candidate for Middletown Town Council. And if you want to watch this video, share it with your friends, share it with other voters, share it with coworkers. You can do that. This video will be available on our Facebook page, as well as on our website and our YouTube channel immediately after this. We have a whole bunch of interviews lined up today and this week. Visit whatsupnewp.com for the full schedule. Sign up for our newsletter. We email you every morning with what is coming up on this feed every single day. I want to thank Jim for taking the time early this morning to join us. That's going to do it for us this morning. We'll be back in a little while.